doable, but it would dangerously deplete interceptors available to CENTCOM, according to New York Times. And what is your understanding of the attack on Iran? They were
Well,
supposed to attack Iran massively, and it didn't happen so
yeah,
far.
yeah. It's and I don't think it's going to happen this weekend. There's so initially, I thought it was going to happen on Friday. I forgot to take into account that Trump was going to have the White House course. He's going to be speaking at the White House Correspondents Association dinner. So that got canceled. The operation was canceled or not implemented because they didn't want to distract from Trump's moment in the sun. Um, then I thought, well, okay, that'll mean today's a possibility. However, I learned in the last 12 hours or so. So the way the planning cells are set up, Central Command and MacDill Air Force Base, they have an operations center. They're running what's called a crisis action team, and that's where the orders are issued. Like the order, okay, uh, prepare an airstrike that's going to hit this number of targets. It's going to involve this number of aircraft, and these are the objectives. Then that order gets sent to Air Force Central Command, AFCENT is called. AFCENT used to be based in Al Udeid Air Force Base, and they operated out of what was called the CAOC, the Combined Air Operations Center, CAOC, but CAOC. The CAOC was shut down, I don't know precisely when, but sometime in the last 3 months, and it was moved from Al Udeid to Shaw Air Force Base in South Carolina. So now here's the Air Force Central Command is now located in South Carolina, not located in Qatar. So what I've learned is that if the orders are coming out of CENTCOM and they go to AFCENT and AFCENT would prepare the ops plan, okay, here's how we're going to carry this operation out. And then they would send their ops plan back up to CENTCOM, and the CENTCOM commander, Brad Cooper, would sign off on it. And then, and might have Secretary of Defense Hegseth sign off on it. Then it would go back down, and then they would execute. Well, those two commands aren't really communicating. I was told they're not in real communication right now about an operation. AFCENT's sort of doing its thing, CENTCOM's doing its thing. So there are no indications from the planning side that an actual operation is in the works. So despite Trump's threats and despite some activities we saw with embassies closing, we learned yesterday that it was reported the Germans closed their embassy in Tehran. Now today the Germans came out and denied it. No, we haven't. We're still operating. Ach du Liebe. We did get some signs yesterday that the P-8s were supposedly flying over the Persian Gulf. The P-8 aircraft are designed, they conduct intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance activities. They're basically there to replace the ground radars that are no longer operational, that Iran has wiped out. So for right now, it looks like I think that New York Times article is accurate. I think Kane did his job as he's Trump's senior military advisor. He doesn't issue commands to the Central Command. If there are commands that would come from the president through the Secretary of Defense or Secretary of War, Hegseth. So we're not seeing that right now. So it looks like we'll have a peaceful weekend. At least I hope so.
What is the communication line between Kane and the military? Is he receiving all these intelligence information from the military? Then
no, Kane. I understand. Look, Kane. So Kane gets copied on all messages out of CENTCOM, but Kane's not the decision maker for CENTCOM. Secretary of War Hegseth is the decision maker. Chain of command is Hegseth, CENTCOM. The Joint Chiefs of Staff and Kane is the head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, is by statute, by law, his job is to advise the president, to be the president's senior military advisor. Say, okay, this is what they're proposing. This would be a good idea. This would be a bad idea. These are the consequences. And it looks like Kane is doing a good job. I know that I think Anthony Aguilar has worked with Kane in the past, and I think Anthony spoke highly of him. That he was, he was a good commander, good, decent guy, not one to indulge in craziness. So it looks like Kane at least is doing his job and may have talked Trump out of it.
So basically, his role is to be the main analyst of the information coming to him and interpreting or giving his understanding, his perception to Donald Trump.
But he delivers the messages. I mean, he's got Defense Intelligence Agency reports to him. I mean, again, the chain of command goes through Hegseth, but the Joint Chiefs of Staff, they collect all the information out of DIA, out of the National Security Agency, out of the National Reconnaissance Office. So there's Joint Chiefs of Staff is supposed to be where, they understand what all the intel is. They understand what is called order of battle. And it will advise, is this, if CENTCOM comes in and says, here's our proposed plan, Kane can go to Trump and say, I think that plan sucks because X, Y, and Z. Or I think that plan is deficient. It lacks this, this, and this. Where then Trump could go back to Brad Cooper and say, hey, let's, I'm not happy with this. You need to adjust this. You need to change that kind of thing.
Do you feel that they are still assessing the attack, or they somehow they have decided because of the interceptor that it was mentioned in this article, the shortage is not going to be resolved anytime soon?
No, exactly. It's the shortages, not just of the interceptors. It's the shortages of Tomahawks, JASSM, all these precision missiles. When they use them, they're not being replaced, and the replacement is maybe 3-4 years away. And so Kane is not just focused upon Central Command. He's also focused on Pacific Command, PACOM. He's also focused on European Command, EUCOM, because they each have specific. EUCOM's mission is with respect to Russia. And so they've got to be prepared to fight Russia. I mean, that's their job. PACOM's job is to be prepared to fight China. So then they sit down and say, what do we need to fight China? Do we have do we have all of the necessary weapons we need to do that? And I think the messages coming back from EUCOM or PACOM are going, good God, we're running out. We don't even have enough to carry out our mission.
Yeah. Larry, we had the war happening, the escalation between Yemen and Saudi Arabia. I thought that they're not going to go that far attacking Aramco.
You talked last night to who?
I thought that the response on the part of Yemen, I was thinking of Aramco. I said, if they want to escalate drastically, they will attack Aramco. If they want to go little by little, escalate in the war, they're going to attack on the pipeline, on the port in the Red Sea. But they attacked both of them last night.
No, actually, my understanding, they didn't attack Yanbu. There were reports that, but not confirmed. So if you saw confirmation, fine, but I haven't seen that.
No, I haven't seen the confirmation.
But they did take out the Aramco facility, Jinza, and that's the world's. My understanding, it's right now the world's most sophisticated petrochemical refinery. And so the damage they've done, the report I heard today said it's going to be at least 4 months before it's back up and operating, assuming there are no more attacks on it. So, the Houthis really, they delivered a big kick in the balls to the Saudis. And the Saudis are now like, okay, what are they going to do? Because if if the Saudis double down and try to go back and attack now, hit the port at Hodeidah. They bombed at Hodeidah, but claimed that they didn't hit the port. They hit other structures. But if they try to take out Hodeidah, then Iran's next shot will be there are two refineries at Yanbu, north and south. They take those out, then those oil terminals are shut down. And I said refineries, I meant oil terminals. Those terminals are shut down, and there's no more oil coming out of Saudi Arabia. Not through the Strait of Hormuz and not through the Red Sea. And that will further exacerbate global oil supplies. And I think, frankly, that's another issue that's weighing upon Trump, because I just received a little bit ago a report from an energy expert who's a consultant in the Persian Gulf. Let me give you his bottom line, that it is: the U.S. military is stealing America's diesel and jet fuel safety margin. The government is pulling critical fuel out of depleted domestic systems, moving it through opaque military and overseas channels, and leaving the American economy with the shortage risk. And there are 6 findings. Number 1, the U.S. military is stealing the domestic fuel cushion. Priority procurement, military inventory issues, foreign military programs, and exports feeding overseas hubs all pull from the same strategic fuel pool. The labels differ, the economic result does not. Fuel is taken from the domestic safety margin, transferred into the war machine. That's number 1. 2, the theft is occurring inside a verified shortage. From May 1st through July 17th, there were 161 million barrels of oil of distillate and jet fuel left in the United States. 1.9 million barrels every day. So let's call it 2 million. The national distillate stocks were 22% below the 2015 to 2019 norm. East Coast stocks were 51% below. Washington exported critical fuels while the East Coast held less than half of its former cushion. 3, Rotterdam is the shadow handoff. April records show that 8.6 million barrels of oil were sent to the Netherlands. Of that, 8.8 million barrels of distillate and 0.644 million barrels of jet and 0.003 million barrels of kerosene. Nearly all Dutch-bound distillate was less than 15 parts per meter. Rotterdam is a transshipment hub. The public U.S. trail stops before the onward buyer and final user. 4, the military accounting system hides the destination. Public data merged Jet A and JP8, so these are 2 different aviation fuels. Qualifying armed service shipments can be EEI exempt, and there's no public ledger reconciles commercial exports with military issues, foreign deliveries, and operational consumption. 5, U.S. taxpayers are subsidizing Israel while America runs short. Washington maintains an active JP-8 procurement vehicle for Israel inside a taxpayer-backed military assistance system. Direct deliveries are visible. Additional Dutch routed supply is likely. The government does not disclose the exact indirect cargoes. And then finally, the war machine gets the fuel, America gets the damage. U.S. trucking, rail, agriculture, heating, civil aviation are left with depleted buffer and the disruption risk. Military and foreign operations receive priority access. This is not ordinary trade because, beside a healthy reserve, it is a military-directed transfer of strategic fuel away from the American economy. So all of that combined may be the what has also given Trump pause to continuing the military strikes.
Yeah. Larry, don't you think the behavior of Saudi Arabia is somehow so strange? Because when it comes to the Strait of Hormuz, we can say that we are arguing that maybe the United States is putting pressure on them. Do you think with the case of Yemen is the same? The United States is forcing them to attack Yemen, or it's their decision and their understanding and their sort of strategy?
Maybe it may be the Israelis encouraging them. If the United States did encourage the Saudis, I guess, say, good Lord, what a stupid suggestion. Because they didn't sit down and say, okay, look, if Saudis retaliate, do they have a lot of sophisticated infrastructure and advanced refineries and massive oil fields in Yemen that they can blow up? No. You're going to call it tit for tat. There's not a lot of tat in Yemen. But boy, there's a lot of tit in Saudi Arabia. And as we saw that the strike on the petroleum, that petrochemical refinery in Jeddah last night was, it hurt Saudi Arabia, hurt them bad. And it's 4 months worth of damage. August, September, October, November. They may not be back to normal until December, if that. And so if the Saudis decide to escalate, the Yemen's going to go after Yanbu, and they'll take out those oil terminals and the north and south terminals in Yanbu. And then Ukraine doesn't have any cash flow from oil.
They retaliated attacking the mountains in Yemen. The mountains were hit by the United States multiple. I remember every time they were there.
Oh my God, those mountains, man! Those mountains were steadily moving north. The mountains were going to cross the border. Oh, look, this is ridiculous.
I assume the United States hit them with bunker buster, if I'm not mistaken, Larry. Yeah, was that the case?
I hadn't heard that. What did they hit?
I don't know, because they feel that the missile, all these, underground cities under the mountain, they have that. That's why they're hitting the mountains, because all those missiles are beneath the mountains. That's why they're trying to do this.
Yeah, and how did that work out during the first 18 months with Operation Prosperity Guardian, followed by Rough Rider? Did they stop the Houthi missiles? No, didn't even come close.
I assume they hit nothing because there was no response from Yemen after that attack. It seems that they couldn't hit anything. Maybe the entrance or of the tunnels, but there is nothing happening with the case of Yemen. There was no retaliation, no response, as I've mentioned. It means that, but after all, you look at the Red Sea, Larry, today. Are they gonna continue this tit for tat, Saudi Arabia, or
Well, I don't know, but if they do, then I've laid it out. What's the big target the Saudis could go after? Hodeidah, or one of the airports. If they do that, the Houthis are going to retaliate. I think they'll hit Yanbu, oil terminals. Now they may go back and decide to really create more damage on Jeddah. Hit some more portions and really make them maybe destroy that whole facility. So they'd be looking at years rebuilding it, not just months.
We had an attack, Larry, between, it seems that the Russian cargo ship was headed toward Iran, and it was attacked by Ukrainians. And Zelensky today tweeted that we hit one of these cargo ships heading to Iran. Then the Iranian response came out. It's so interesting that all of these, Ukraine is within reach of Iranian ballistic missiles. If they want, they can hit Ukraine. I don't know why are they escalating. Do you see the moment that something of that sort happening? Here is what the Iranian Foreign Ministry moments ago gave out the statement on their part. Iran's foreign ministry condemns Ukraine's attack against an Iranian, I thought it was Russian, Iranian cargo ship, which killed one sailor. The foreign ministry states that in accordance with the international law and the UN Charter, Iran reserves the right to legitimate self-defense if such actions continue. Iran will never hesitate to defend itself and its national interest. Responsibility for the consequences of the adventurism committed by the Ukrainian regime's leader, Zelensky, will lie with that regime and its supporters and instigators.
Mm-hmm.
Zelensky is somehow connecting the two wars, it seems to me, if he continues to do that, because we know the communication between Iran and Russia is happening in the Caspian Sea. What is your understanding of that?
Well, again, it's just, they hit it, it caused damage, but it's not going to stop the flow of Russian or the trade between Russia and Iran. And, I think usually the Russian response is to start deploying more air defense missiles into that region as well. They've got but I don't think Iran's going to launch any ballistic missiles at Kyiv. The Russians are doing a damn fine job of it themselves. I mean, they're you saw what happened. Was it yesterday? Day before yesterday, they had this military exhibition. They were, it was showing off all of Ukraine's defense wares. Russians blew the hell out of it. They killed at least 10 people, maybe more, caused hundreds of casualties. So,
how do you see, Larry, the way that Russia and Iran and China are communicating and were communicating about the United States? Because the two, Russia and Iran, are fighting the United States, and China is in the background. And
not real. Okay, not really. Did you see? Did you read the statement that Wang Yi made at the end of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization meetings?
No, I didn't see.
Look that up. Can you look it up real quick?
Yeah,
or do you want me to do it?
Let me just check it here. I don't know if
just say list. Give me Wang Yi's statement to the made regarding Iran at the end of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization meeting.
Yeah, let me just. It was. Yes, it was on Wednesday.
Yeah, maybe Wednesday.
Yeah.
But it's a very strong statement.
I couldn't find his statement.
Oh,
where did you?
Hang on.
Is he talking about the cooperation between Russia, China, and Iran, or something else?
About Iran. The
only news I have is the meeting he had with Rubio.
So at the foreign ministers meeting in Kyrgyzstan, Wang Yi met Arachi on the sidelines, and he said that China, quote, firmly supports Iran in safeguarding its sovereignty, security, and national dignity. He urged a return to negotiations and implementation of previous diplomatic statements. So, he was very, very firmly on supporting Iran, not the Gulf states, and not the United States.
The problem is how to manage the United States in order to reduce the damage from these wars. And I don't
What do you
know
mean?
if they have
Okay, managed by whom? Managed
managed
by
by
Iran,
Russia
by
and
or
Iran,
China?
both Russia and Iran, because they're fighting the United States right now. They're directly in, they're directly fighting with the United States. One of them is in Ukraine, and Iran is fighting directly with the United States. As because what is happening, to my understanding, is Donald Trump, even before having any sort of talks or negotiations, he's attacking the southern part of it. He wants to destroy as much as possible. That's Is that your perception?
No, no. I mean, otherwise he'd be still doing it. He didn't. He stopped. Stopped yesterday. Apparently hasn't continued it today. And I doubt he'll do it tomorrow, because if he does it tomorrow on Sunday, and they hit infrastructure and refinery capabilities in Iran, what do you think that'll do to the price of oil Monday morning when the market's open? So you actually already had the answer to your question when you read the New York Times article about what General Keynes said. That, hey, we're running short. I mean, this is something I've been saying, for the last 2 weeks, that the United States had a limited capability of what it could do to continue blasting Iran. It does not have unlimited supplies. And it's not just with interceptor missiles, it's with their precision missiles, the Tomahawks, the JASSMs, the ATACMS. They've got limited range to start with, as well. And the PRSM, the precision strike missile, forget about that. They're out of that now. So, and that's why Kane said, "Hey, okay, yeah, we can do it, Mr. President. Yeah, if that's what you want to do. I'm not telling you no, but just be aware we're running down our stocks to critical levels, and we might, if we had to get into a fight with China or Russia, we're going to be tapped out." That's essentially what he was saying.
Is Yemen going to resolve the siege on Yemen? Are Houthis going to be able to resolve the issue of the siege with this new move on their part?
Well, they certainly put pressure on Saudi Arabia to consider a diplomatic option. Again, I would argue, just like with the United States, Saudis don't have a good military option with the Houthis. I mean, hell, the United States tried to defeat them. It couldn't. We spent 18 months. The first 14 months under Biden until Trump took over on January 20th. And then Trump, with big, announcement, oh, we're going to teach those Houthis who's boss. And so they started the operation in March, went through April, and first week of May, they called it off. They did it for 7 weeks, and it was too costly. They lost almost $500 million worth of MQ-9 Reaper drones in 7 weeks. That whole operation cost well over $1 billion in terms of both the lost Reapers, lost aircraft, other munitions expended, damage to ships. Not to mention, it was during that period that at least 2 Navy SEALs drowned. So, yeah, it was costly. And remember, Trump tacoed. He declared victory, declared the Houthis had submitted. They said, "Oh, we can't keep this up," and the U.S. pulled out. Well, the Houthis didn't capitulate. That was the term. Trump said, "Oh, the Houthis had capitulated." They did no such thing. That was just an excuse that Trump came up with to justify pulling U.S. forces out. So now you want to make the case that the Saudis are more militarily competent than the United States? Good luck with that argument.
Yeah, but they have their proxies in Yemen, and right now, as we talk, there are heavy gunfire going on in the northern part of Yemen between Houthis and the groups and the pro Saudi Arabia, and they're part of the presidential leadership council tribes.
Yeah, but that's meaningless. I mean, it's not, if you're one of the frontline soldiers for the Houthis getting shot at, yeah, it's meaningful, but it's not going to change anything. Hell, they had 10 years to try to defeat the Houthis and failed with those guys. What, they've suddenly become Superman? Nah. So, if they escalate much on that front, you'll see the Houthis will say, okay, they may even send a warning to the Saudis, basically, cut this shit out or else. And or else what? Or else just say goodbye to Yambu.
Situation is getting so much interesting that you cannot argue who's helping the other the most. Is Iran helping Houthis the most, or Houthis are helping Iran?
Houthis don't need a lot of help. Those are some hard ass bastards, I tell you.
Yeah.
They're.
I'm talking about the combination of the Strait and the Red Sea. It's so interesting, the combination of the two.
They're it's like having your own honey badger. Have you ever watched any of the YouTube channels which feature honey badgers taking on lions and jackals and orangutan? I mean, the honey badgers is a relatively small animal, but man, it's mean, particularly when the lions come after it. What its specialty is, it gets between the male lion's legs and bites the balls off.
Mhm.
The lions go, "Oh, that hurt." They go, "Stay away from those honey badgers." I mean, they are ferocious animals, and I'd call the Houthis the honey badgers of the Arabian Peninsula.
Looking at Larry, the targets, Iranian targets in the Persian Gulf, how effectively they have, hit the U.S. air defense system, HIMARS. Do you think the strategy? My understanding is the strategy is to destroy everything in the vicinity. I'm talking about the GCC countries.
Yeah, they've
And
done that.
how
They've
effective
effectively
was
done
that so far?
Oh, very effective. They've destroyed at least 19 radars and communication systems, satellite communication systems, and the HIMARS are now basically out of ammunition, out of missiles. I mean, they can fire ATACMS. If they fire the ATACMS from Kuwait, yeah, those can get up in that northern, what is that, Kyrgyzstan? What's the
The Western?
borders of, yeah, western side that borders Iraq.
Yeah, Khuzestan.
So
Yeah.
Kyrgyzstan. So they can get in there, they can cause some damage there, but that's with the ATACMS only go 180 miles. So maybe I'm figuring the distance from where they're firing from, maybe 70 miles to the border of Iran, and so they can go another 110 miles inland. They can cause some damage, but nothing catastrophic. But Iran keeps hitting those HIMAR launchers, and the only other missile that they could fire is the PRISM, the precision strike munition or missile. And Lockheed Martin last year made only like 56. So it's not like they're sitting there on a big pile of these and can fire them at will. They don't have it. So, yeah, Iran when you go back, when the history of this war is written, and I don't know if they had assistance from the Chinese and Russians in the planning, or if they did it themselves. I don't want to suggest that the Iranians aren't capable of doing this, but whoever pulled that plan together, man, they methodically went out and started destroying. First, okay, we have to blind the United States. We have to get rid of all of these radar systems that previously they could detect launches, they could monitor aircraft, they could provide early warning for threats. They can't do that anymore. They don't have any more early warning for threats. And we saw the effect of that in Mawafaq al-Salti, the air base in Jordan the other day, where the troops on the ground didn't have advance warning that the missiles were inbound. And killed at least 3 of them.
That's because of the early warning systems that they had in the Persian Gulf, in Qatar, in Saudi Arabia. They were all destroyed.
In Kuwait and Bahrain. Actually, Bahrain and Al Udeid and Qatar, those were the critical ones. Those were the ones that got taken out. I'm not sure there were any major systems in Saudi Arabia. It might have been, but if they were, they're not there anymore.
Yesterday, they hit Saudi Arabia, one of these logistics in Saudi Arabia. And that was the only attack on Saudi Arabia yesterday. And in the last week, we didn't have any attack from Iranians on Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, I think they're trying to leave the Saudis alone. And I think the Saudi, but again, the Saudis got all ginned up over Yemen. Stupid. The Saudis' best option right now, go negotiate a settlement with the Houthis. Okay, look, we're going to leave you alone. We're sorry. Hey, let's have some economic cooperation, whatever. Get the Saudis want to get the Yemenis on their side. And just, look, you want a friendly state on your southern border. You don't want to have a hostile state. And because as the Houthis have shown, hey, you're going to screw with us. We're going to make sure your life is miserable. You're not getting any ships out of the Bab el-Mandab. They don't call it the Gate of Lamentation for nothing. Which my understanding, that's what that Bab el-Mandab means. I'm not sure which language that is, if it's Arabic or
Arabic.
Is it Arabic?
Yeah.
Okay.
Bab means the gate, Larry, in Arabic.
Bab? Oh, okay.
Bab means the gate of Mandab. Yeah.
Okay. And Mandab must be lamentation or tears.
Yeah, it means the location is called Mandab. I don't know what is the meaning of that.
Yeah, it's either tears or lamentation. I've seen it translated as both. I'll leave it to the Arab scholars out there to, they'll write in comments and say, you don't know what you're talking, Okay, just go easy. I'm not representing myself as an Arab scholar by any stretch. But did learn it's not, hey, this is happy entrance. Welcome to happy ending, No, it's not that. So Saudi Arabia's best play diplomatically is to put a lid on this, stop the fighting, because the Houthis, they can reach out and touch your oil fields whenever they want. And the United States thought, well, we can go in there with our air power, with our drones, we're going to be able to spot where these launchers are. The problem is they're mobile launchers. And so the only way you can really defeat a mobile launcher is if it goes out and parks in the same place for 3 days. Or if you've got a Predator drone overhead, and then you see that launcher, and then you immediately attack it with a HARM missile. The problem with that, as the United States discovered, is a lot of times the Houthis were putting out launchers that were just bait. And then they had the air defense sitting by, and the Predator drone comes overhead, boom, they took it out. So, the United States got, suffered some real economic, I'm talking almost half a billion dollars, almost $500 million worth of just with 7 drones. Because the airframe on the drone is between 30 and 35 million. And then when you put the pods on, the optical pods and the weapon pods and whatever other pods they put on and attach to it, that adds like another $35 million to it. So each of those drones cost between $60 and $70 million. You take those out, do the math. If it's $70 million, 7 of those, that's $490 million. Boom, gone. And it's not like they've got a factory back that's just spinning them out every day. No. Why? Because like we talked about last night, rare earth minerals. You need those rare earth minerals in those bad boys. And they don't. China's sitting there going, we're not giving you any more.
they used these missiles that they used to attack Saudi Arabia. They're domestic. They produce them domestically, Larry. They're basically the versions of the Khaybar Shikan and Zulfikar, the Iranian Zulfikar and Khaybar Shikan, but they're domestic. They were, the versions.
Yeah.
These missiles were produced in Yemen. They have used their missiles, and the what is interesting to me that there was no, at least what we've seen, there was no air defense system in Bahrain yesterday. In Kuwait, Iran hit the targets without having any sort of difficulties from interceptors or air defense system in those countries. I assume it was the case with the case of Saudi Arabia.
No, they've been wiped out. Look, I wrote a piece 2 months ago that I went in and detailed what the PAC-3, the quantity of PAC-3s, because at the end of 2025, so now 7 months ago, there were a total of 6,200 that had been produced since 2015. Well, at least 2,000 of those had been sold to allies, foreign countries. So that took it down to 4,200. Then they used at least 1,000 in Ukraine. Well, that took it down to 3,200. Well, how many did they use during the 12-day war last June? I'm willing to bet that was another 1,000. Then how many have they used during this, 45-day war, 6-month war now? I think 1,500, 2,000. So all of a sudden, they're on fumes. And it's not like Lockheed Martin, Raytheon were producing, more PAC-3s. In fact, you saw, Raytheon announced, we're going to go back and start building the PAC-2 missiles. Well, those are far, far less effective against ballistic missiles. You set them up, they explode fragments, and you hope it hits something. That missile's, it's almost as old as you. You're a little bit older. It's 36 years old. Okay? So it's not like it's the most modern weapon out there. And this is, so the United States is in the process of discovering we got limits to what we can do.
So maybe that's the main reason. Because they don't have anything to defend Israel, to defend GCC.
I think General King came in, he probably had a more stark assessment for Trump. I mean, it got cleaned up for the New York Times. Yeah, we might be at a shortage. You might want to think about this. No, I think he went in and said, sir, if we do this, man, we're going to strip ourselves bare ass naked. And, I used this, Pepe and I did a broadcast earlier today on our Transition Protocol channel. And I said, think of Saudi Arabia as a fat, naked man in a nudist colony. And think of Yemen as a porcupine. Do you want to be a fat, naked man trying to catch a porcupine? That porcupine can launch those spikes and it hurts. You don't want any part of that.
Yeah, exactly. Larry, thank you so much for being with us. And
yeah, that went quick.
Yeah,
we had a good discussion.
Exactly.
Maybe we provided some enlightenment and some information for people.
I'm sure about that. Because just look at, Larry, to be honest, look at Fox News. Just watch all the videos that coming out. It's all the same. It's all the same. The same rhetoric over and over. And it's all, I don't know who's watching those videos. I am one of them to watch to make to understand the mindset. But
yeah, if it's either watch the Fox videos or be the fat naked man chasing the porcupine, I'll go with the porcupine.
Yeah.
So So I
Thank
take it
you.
we're gonna do this tomorrow,
Yeah, exactly. At 5 p.m.
5 p.m. Okay.
Okay.